Authors and Their Shiny Pennies. Think about how many projects you do at one time. By Ken Jabert at thekindleguide.com. You may have heard of the shiny penny syndrome, and you may even have it. Don't worry, it isn't a medical condition or pathology, it's just a bad habit. The habit of picking up and tinkering with every shiny new thing or idea that comes along. I have to work on this one a lot. Obviously, as creative writers, it's our job to pick up ideas and look at them, and to some extent, the more ideas you find, the better, right? But there can come a point where that's counterproductive. By the end of this video, you'll see why it makes sense to keep track of what you're doing. This video aims to give you a visual representation of what's going on, and why it matters so much. For our thought experiment, let's consider three different people. Imaginary people. Meet A. She's completely efficiency-oriented, and perfectly so. She never misses a trick, always has energy, and is never moody. She optimizes everything she does for business, and writing is her business. B is distractible and tends to pick up new projects, but he's also really good about finishing the things he starts. In fact, B always finishes, and always works at a steady rate. C is deeply into the whole shiny penny experience and frequently picks up new things. We know people like that, and they do finish some things, but C never finishes anything. She has a perfect record. Now we're going to give our people some traits designed to help us examine the question. First, we'll assume that, contrary to actual experience, of course, that each person works at a constant rate and does one thing per unit of time. Obviously, creatives don't really work this way, but over time there's a leveling effect, so it's still a meaningful assumption, and ultimately this is about adopting an effective way of working for ourselves over time. We will also assume, at first, that fame and sales success progress linearly rather than randomly or exponentially. But we'll take a second look at that. Success can obviously mean different things, but we'll take hypothetical cash, which can be easily measured as our proxy. But it would be the same, although harder to measure, with prestige or influence, perhaps even as something as amorphous as improvement. Finally, we'll assume that each person gets ideas at exactly the same rate, one idea per each unit of time, and it takes 3 units of work, that is time, to complete each idea. This obviously means that some ideas must get discarded for anything ever to be finished, right? A critical form of self-discipline. Finishing an idea means you get paid 1 unit of money immediately and 1 per unit of time ever after. So there's a standardized residual effect. That's the way publication is to an extent. The reality is complicated, but one beauty of Kindle is that the books never go out of print. Again, these are simplifying assumptions. Real life doesn't work this way on an individual basis. Maybe over time, though, it does, like demographics. Okay, so let's start the clock with each person having one idea and all other things about them being equal. We'll talk about feelings in another video. I think they're important, but they would cloud our mathematical analysis here. Here's how things look after 1 unit of time. After 1 unit of time, everything is equal, no one has money, all have started, and no one has completed any projects. Now here's how they look after 2 units of time. After 2 units of time, some differences already begin emerging. A has completed 2/3 of a project, and B and C have picked up shiny pennies, new ideas. Thus B and C have both worked 1/3 on each of 2 projects, while A has focused on 1. No one has any money yet, though. Do you see an artistic sacrifice in A's behavior? Or can business and art coexist this far? Here's how things look after 3 units of time. More differences. You can see now that A has finished 1 project and gotten paid once. She'll be paid on that first project from now on. B and C have continued to spread their efforts and are only 1/3 of the way done with any project. B has decided to focus, however, and resist new ideas for a bit, going to stick with 3 projects at a time at the most. So here's how things look after 4 units of time. A has now been paid twice and is at work on her second idea. B is now 2/3 of the way through with his first idea, and C has found yet another idea and has 4 projects started. For this analysis, C never learns to finish. She's never going to finish anything, and the others will stay in their established patterns too. These are archetypal people. But stick with the analysis. It's worth playing out to the end. The lesson is in the math. Here's how things look after 5 units of time. A has now been paid 3 times. Consider how she feels about her career as a writer. She's been paid 3 times. She's 2/3 of the way through with her second project. B is 2/3 of the way through 2 projects, but holding firm to character, he's going to keep dividing his efforts. C has found another idea and started it. Now on to step 6. Here's how things look after 6 units of time. A has now completed a second task. A has now been paid 4 times on her first project and is finished with her second project and has been paid once for that. B is 2/3 of the way through all 3 of his projects. I think this is a critical time for B. He hadn't been paid yet. C has found another idea and started it. Now on to step 7. Here's how things look after 7 units of time. B finally gets paid and will keep being paid for project 1 from now on. After 7 units of time, A is getting paid twice per round and is at work on a third project. She's been paid a total of 7 times now. B has finally gotten paid, so that for the same amount of work as A did, B has now been paid 1/7 as much. You see that? C is still trying new things. On to step 8. Here's how things look after 8 units of time. Things are looking up for B. A is up to 9 total units of pay and is almost through with her third project. B is beginning to reap some residual benefit from the first project, finishes the second project and gets paid for that too, and C is up to her old tricks. Here's how things look after 9 units of time. We're going to compare total results. A and B have not only done exactly the same amount of work, but they've completed the same number of tasks. A, however, has been paid 12 units of pay, while B has only been paid 6, half as much. C, who's worked just as hard, has not completed anything and has not been paid at all. In this business, you only get paid when you finish and publish, if you ever do. One would naturally expect variations in real life, although not to that last rule. In particular, one might expect A to get distracted occasionally and for B to focus sometimes to get things finished rather than to divide his efforts. For example, at step 6, where he adds a third project to his third project when the end is so close for the first one. The devil, as they say, is in the details. And C is obviously not self-supporting from these projects and would in real life presumably finish some things just for the heck of it. Wouldn't she? Well, I've known not 1 but 2 authors who considered themselves full-time authors, one of whom never published anything at all during the 15 years I knew her, all of which she was a professional author, she believed. This was before the time of Kindle, however. And the other one has never made a profit on her writing after at least 20 years. We'll come back to this thought experiment and consider some other things in the following videos. I hope this video gave you some food for thought about your own habits. It certainly did for me. We'll take another look at all our characters in the next video. In the meantime, consider the bargain you're making with your own work habits. Is it the one you want to make? Till next time then, right on.